still lean into like where your strengths are. So like, we talked about audio notes earlier. Like if you don't want to read their daily report, if you don't want to type up tasks for them, drop the audio notes. And if they're not capable of like understanding the tasks and outcomes from that, then like maybe they're not your A players.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Chris G here, Hard Hat CEO. Again, it's a Thursday. And you know what? I done decided we're going to talk about some stuff I'm excited about today. And it's not real estate. It is about teamwork, though. And that's my love language when it comes to delegation and having everybody help you get where you need to be. And to help me do that today, I got Samantha Prestidge from Denver, Colorado, but originally from the Florida area. And she's getting used to the cold weather up there. I know she's been here a while, but whew, it's cold here in Missouri. Amen to that. All right, everybody help me welcome Samantha. Samantha, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good today. It's a good day. Woke up, sun is shining, not too cold out here in Colorado, so I'm good.
Well, you're higher than we are, but it's cold. Just a miserable, damp cold here, I think, right now. So maybe we get over it. It changes like the weather here in Missouri. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Samantha, before we get started.
All right, well, you can call me Sam. Unless you're mad at me, then you could be like the Southern people in church and throw out all the syllables at me. Call me Sam. I run Auxo Business Services, and the simple way to say it is like our team is all about helping you get your shit together. If I could say that on this show,
You'll be fine.
Okay, we're all about all the admin, the ops, the behind the scenes stuff that kind of drag you down, whether you're a senior manager or C-suite or founder, kind of whatever role you're in, all the minutia that slows you down, but still has to get done. We like to get nerdy and obsess over that and just think about how can we make your work simpler and more fun while you're still being profitable is what we focus on.
When I was going through my notes, I got a lot of things here. I got excited about, I've done a whole episode about clarity and how being clear in your own mind, but being clear to your team as well. What can you elaborate on that for me?
Ooh, clarity is one of those things you hear so much that you're like, it can't be that important, right? You hear it so much, you just start tuning out that word. You're like, forget clarity. I just need to get things done and move on, right? But it is essential, especially when you're talking about delegation and with your team. Like if you are not clear, especially on outcomes and expectations, on how you want something to look when it's done, on how you kind of want them to get that done, your team's going to be spinning around in circles, and you're always going to be frustrated, and they're going to be frustrated at you, and everyone's confused, and you're working really hard. Everyone's working hard, but you're not quite getting where you want to go because that clarity isn't there. And I highly recommend you reflect, you do some shower thoughts if you need to, sit in the sauna or something and figure out where are you not clear in your business or with your team. And we can kind of dive into different sections or different aspects of that.
Well, my mind as a business owner, and as you and most of my listeners, my mind's always running, probably 10 times faster than my mouth, and which is probably, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I have a tendency when I try to delegate, I was like, well, I'm gonna make a list, and I make a list and I give the list out, and it doesn't get done the way I thought it was going to. So then I look back and say, well, what made him think this? And I read my notes and it's like, well, I can see how they read that. How do I become a better communicator to my team so that I'm not getting frustrated and they kind of have a clear understanding?
Yeah, this is a great thing to dive into, because I think, most people are going to hear what you just said and think, okay, well, I need to go create better SOPs. And that really slows you down when you go to delegate, because then that puts you in the mindset of anything new to hand off to somebody, I've got to take the time to create an SOP. And that's just not true. So where I usually say you're missing the clarity is on that outcomes and really what the big picture context is. So let's say you're delegating, like, let's just say podcast management, for example, right? Well, does our podcast editor know what our goal for the podcast is? Is it to, hey, we want to get inbound leads, or is it that we want to grow visibility, right? Because they might approach your editing and your content differently based on that big picture context. So same thing for projects. Like, what is the end goal of making this customer happy? What does that look like for us? What does the customer want, right? And so I say, like, think about what the outcomes and the big picture context is. So if we're looking, like, for example, your podcast editor, like, is your goal for the podcast to get more leads, or is it to, like, grow visibility and leads will come once we're, like, at 100,000 followers or something? Your editor is going to approach things differently based on that big picture context. Same thing for projects, right? Like, what does it mean for this customer to be happy? And then we don't have to like sit there and write a whole checklist and to-do list for whoever we're assigning tasks to, because that's really laborious. Like, I don't want to do that. And you know what? My mind does go faster than my mouth sometimes. I also would rather just drop like a Slack or iMessage audio note to someone than write down all those to-do items that they need them to do.
Oh, I've heard that.
Like, oh my gosh. I'm like, it's so convenient for me to just ramble and then tell my assistant, here's a 5-minute audio clip, go figure out what I need, right? And that's fine, that's her job. But like, even with my ops assistant, there are certain things where I'm like, I'm not gonna write out all these things. Like if it's something super specific, I might record a Loom video, you go make the SOP so you know how to do it consistently moving forward. But when it comes down to me delegating new stuff to her, I'm saying like, this is the outcome I want. This is what I want the client to feel or what I need the team member to have. Like you figure out the steps to go make that happen.
Well, that is not micromanagement. What is wrong with you?
What? Yeah, no, I don't. Oh my gosh. I feel if you're a micromanager, I'm, you know what? I'm not going to judge you. You probably have never been shown another way to do things. Like if you are a micromanager, I'm guessing you haven't had a great manager before that has set a great example for you. You've probably been burned before. So you have something that's validating your need to like get in the weeds with your team members. So I don't want to judge you too harshly, but I will say that is tiring. I don't got time for that. I don't have the energy to micromanage somebody. Like absolutely not. Do I have any interest in that?
So if we're not going to be micromanagers, then we have to have a good team, right? How do we develop that team, or how do we even find them? I made a note to myself. I've said before, and I'm not a very good hire. I'm not the person to go hire people. I want to believe them. I ain't got time to figure out if they're bullshit me or not. And I just want to get it over with because I just despise interview. I'm not this is an interview. I despise just hiring people. It's just not me.
Okay. Yeah.
So how do we do that? Or I've got to the point where I just hire somebody else to go find somebody. And
yeah, you go deal with it. That's fine, right? If you don't like something, don't do it, right?
Right.
So it's interesting. And we can speak to, there's two different ways I'd approach this, right? And so like if you are a super small team, like let's say you're under 10 or you're a solopreneur or like you're just starting out your trades thing. And so I'm also guessing if you're just starting out, most of the people you've hired have all been your field people, right? The people to go do the actual work that you're getting paid to do. And you haven't maybe looked at the admin side so much. And so if you're in that situation, I would sit down and don't think of like the tasks that someone could do. I would reverse engineer this and say, what do you want to be doing? As the founder, where do you want to be playing in the business? And create that picture. And then you can look at, okay, what is left over that my business, this needs to happen for the business to function. And then that starts to create the job description for the next person you're going to hire. And when you do it that way, it's also much clearer for you to understand like what are the characteristics and personality traits. And that's something that so many people get wrong and hung up on, like college degree, no college degree, 4 years of experience, just starting out. Like, yeah, we could get into the weeds on that, but you're not going to have that clarity unless you know where do you want to be focused in the business, and therefore what is the real value of this role? How much time would you have to train this person up and those things? If you are a little bit more developed in your business, you're a little further along as far as stages and stuff go. So you've got departments and things. And you're thinking about, well, how do I hire? Well, now we've got to talk to our managers. How much time do they have to train somebody? How, like, what are the maybe personality traits that are missing in their team? Because we could hire for culture all day long, but is that going to give me like the stale, same boilerplate person every time? Like, yeah, I want A players, but I need like diversity of thought in my A players there, right? So we've got to dissect a little bit more of what does this role really require? And what is this department and team overall? What are they missing? And then go about hiring that way. Does that clear it up a little bit, or do we need to dive into any of those things?
No, you did good. I want to talk about A players though. That was one of the questions on my next list. So, I can't afford A players. Or can you not afford A players?
Well, that crappy cliche answer of like, it depends. It depends, right? But I mean, that goes back to like, it's you got to be clear on your business. Your business is unique. You might not have unique problems. A lot of problems are very common, and you're not unique in your problems, but your business and how you want to run your business is unique to you, right?
Well, I think it's partly your definition of an A player.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you can have different levels of A players. Like,
Mhm.
you need helpers. You don't need all chiefs. No, you need some Indians, not chiefs. I want A player chief Indians, but I don't need a bunch of A player chiefs. I need one A player chief
Mhm.
in charge of that group, but then he needs a
Mhm.
good guys underneath him. So their
Yeah.
level of competency, I guess, is a little different. Um,
Yeah.
would you agree with that?
Oh, this is interesting because just yesterday I was trying to define like all the things that I look for in hiring. And I went
Yeah.
from like 3 C's to 5 C's. And I'm like, I think my list is getting too long. But I'd say when I'm looking at an A player, and this has to be defined for the company and then for the role itself. But I'm looking at confidence, character, capability,
Hmm.
and hold on, and confidence. So competence, confidence, capability, and character is the
Yeah.
things that I'm looking for. So if we start with competence, that's going to be like their experience, right? So like what technical skills do they know? Like how much real training on how to actually execute on this work are they going to need? What like and all of that. Then if I'm looking at I'm going to mess myself up. I don't know what order I said these in, but I know the words, but I don't know the order. If I got competence and then if I got character, like
Yep.
that is probably what we're looking at from what most people are thinking when they think A player. I think all four of these kind of go together, and culture, right? So if I'm looking at character, like how do they fit into my culture? Are they a person of integrity? I get asked that question almost every time when someone's evaluating if they want to hire a US based virtual assistant with us. And they're like, well, how do I know that they're going to do the right thing? How can I trust you, Sam? For me personally, my first answer is, well, I love Jesus. And so I'm trying to not do anything that's going to make Jesus mad at me. Okay. So like that's my baseline for integrity, but we've got to evaluate that in the interview process and what we're looking for with our culture. What is that person's character? And then I've got their confidence. Like, how confidently are they going to step into this role? Are they going to be proactive with certain things? Are they the kind of person that's going to shy behind wanting SOPs and wanting instructions? Or are they going to be able to look at a hot mess and be like, cool, this is a hot mess, but this is what I think we can do moving forward, right? What's their confidence there? Or am I going to have to train them up a little bit? That's where maybe leadership development skills would come into play. And then our last one is going to be capability. So that is telling me like how capable are they to learn new things. So maybe their competence is a little bit low, their technical skills are a little bit low, but their capability to learn is high. Like I don't think I'm going to have to take so much time to train them because they've got the potential for greatness. And so you can kind of score them on those 4 C's and then say, okay, how much of an A player are they? Even if they are lacking a little bit in one area, hopefully not the character area. That one you got to score high every time. But the other areas, if they're scoring low, like that gives me an idea of how to work with them and if I can even work with them.
I got all kinds of questions now.
Okay,
So
I know I went kind of on a long list there.
no, that's all good. My mentor Roderick, hope he's listening today. Shout out to Roderick. He's big on Colby, and he's got me using
Okay.
Colby, Kolbe. I had to look it up myself. And it's a little different than the personalities traits, but it's basically it's your what would you call it, competence or your ability to
Your ability, how you work. It's like how you work
yeah
and how you think, right? Yeah.
yeah. Do you use anything like that when you're in your groups?
I'm trying to look into Colby a little bit more. I took that test years ago. We
Hmm.
don't right now do a lot of personality testing. I have found that when you give now, most of the people I work with are smaller founders. So they're
Yeah.
just starting out to like building their team. And so when you give them a piece of paper, these founders are already questioning their decision-making skills. And when you give them a piece of paper, like, oh, this is the report on this person, it's almost like they want the report to make the answer for them. And so
Mm.
I don't appreciate that. I'm like, let's talk through, because then they're gonna sidestep the clarity that they need. And we talked
Ah,
about how important that is, right? And I don't want you to sidestep that vision for your team, the vision for yourself as a founder. And so I don't lean into personality tests too much. Now, if you are a larger team, I think that they can be great tools if you're struggling with communication, if you're struggling with really rallying people together, and you yourself feel like, hey, maybe I'm not as great as a people reader as I want to be, then that personality test could be great. But if you're going to use it for hiring, you need to deploy it out to the rest of your team as well. Everyone that's already on your team needs to have
oh,
that
he's big
personality
on that.
test.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, why would you use it for hiring? And then you don't know how that fits into the big picture of the team. Like that's just makes no sense. So if you're going to start using it, start with everyone that's already employed by you, and then use it with all your future hires and interviews.
He kind of, I wanted to, he uses it kind of like an affirmation. It's not start out with, it's make, okay, do your due diligence, do your interview, do your thing. And then, okay, let's assume, let's confirm what you think is what's really going to happen, and then do it, which is nice. But that being said, I wanted to talk about, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, is it easier to hire for admin or for trade worker, or I want to say trade workers, because we were just in the construction
Like
business.
your field guys?
But your field guys, which ones, or is it about the same, just a different game?
I think it'd be just about the same, but a different game. I mean, I think some people complain that like, hey, I have to hire this apprentice, or I've got to hire this person and they know jack shit, and now I've got to train them up. Like, okay, well, yeah, like you're hiring for an entry level role. Like they're not going to have 10 years of experience. That's all right. It's like, what are you hiring for? That's always going to be tough. And I think with admin, those roles tend to be the roles that the least amount of thought for hiring goes into. And so you do have a surprising amount of turnover in your office manager or some of like your project coordinator positions, because you're not really putting a lot of stock into what that job description is and what the ideal candidate's going to look like, because you're so right, maybe rightfully so, but you tend to be pretty busy focused on like all the crap that's happening in the field. And if field problems aren't taking up your attention, then like your CFO or your accountant and whoever's in charge of the job costing spreadsheet is taking up your attention, right? So then it's like, I don't want to think about the office manager and the admin. And so you do end up with quite a bit of turnover there. And you tend to just kind of go with what you think is best of the worst there. And so I don't think that it's necessarily harder. I think it's just something that you maybe haven't stretched your muscles on or worked enough.
I've hired several. Well, in my past, I hired several at the corporate level. And then as my own owner, company owner, you're hiring somebody. It's harder sometimes for me, at least as let's say, like I've hired people that hire people for me. So I find a headhunter, I found other people that, and then first, so what are you looking for? It's like, I don't know. And that's really, you got to sit down and really, like you said, think about that. What are you trying to achieve? And it's hard to do. How do you do that in a way that makes sure that you find the right people that are going to be responsible and help you move forward, instead of somebody who's just dependent on you? Some people like micromanagement. I don't want them on my team, but that's just true.
Yeah. Well, first off, let me just pick on you a little bit, because I've been there and I've got a lot of clients that have been there. So when they say, I don't know, and I'm going to guess you want your answer to be is like, I don't know. I just want someone that's going to do the work, and then I don't want it. I don't have to like micromanage, right? You're like,
I don't have to think about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just need someone that's going to get it done, right? Because it's the minutia, it's the highly detailed stuff that is hard to let go, because you have to trust that the person is detail oriented, but also you don't want to double check their work because you don't like that work. It's not in your zone of genius,
that's
right?
not you.
So I totally get that. And I was just interviewing.
You're my people.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I get you. Okay. My people reading skills are a little up there. But I was just interviewing someone yesterday, and they've got good experience. They are someone that I'm like, you know what? They could totally execute on the specific tasks this client is looking for. And I start asking some more questions, and I'm like, but you know what? They are not an above and beyond person. And when I say that, take it with, if you're an employee, take it with a grain of salt. Don't start throwing tomatoes at me. Like, I don't think that you have, like, going above and beyond means that you have to grind and like kill yourself and like work 60-hour weeks. For me, going above and beyond is that proactive element of like, you can see that a problem's going to happen, or you can see that maybe I've thrown some things at you that are not aligned with the goals I previously said we were going to focus on in those priorities. And you're going to speak up on those. Like, that's what kind of going above and beyond means. And you're not just going to say like, well, I guess Sam is the leader, so she knows best and I'll just go along with it. Like, no, I don't know best all the time. I have my dumb days too. So I was interviewing this person, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I would categorize that as a C player. Like, I put in my notes, they're 3 out of 5. They have the competence to execute, but they don't have the capability to grow with this person. They don't have the confidence to speak up. So they're missing a lot of points for me on that. And so, and I know I'm not totally, I'm being a little political in my response. I'm giving an example rather than saying like, how do you actually go find this person? And I think that goes back to, if let's assume we've got clarity on the job and clarity on like who you're trying to find. Now you've got to build your interview questions to really find that person. And a lot of times people tend to build interview questions that are all around competence, or maybe are, if you've read, like I know in the construction industry, Extreme Ownership is a super popular book, and trying to find people that like have high accountability and stuff. And so maybe you're evaluating aggressively for some of those soft skills. And I would say still with that, like with your interview questions, like they've got, every question should be designed to pull out either a red flag or a green flag. Either they're going to tell me more about this person's character and personality that makes me not want to hire them, or they're going to tell me something more that makes me say like, hell yes, this is an awesome person. And if your interview questions are weak sauce and they're only judging for competence, then you're going to walk away from every interview like, I guess they could do the job, but like, I'm still not sure. And you're not going to be confident in your decision making there.
As we grow and scale, we talk about that a little bit. It's possible that we outgrow some people, right? That person today may not be the right
tough.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? And then you have to tell yourself, you know what, this person was awesome for the stage of business that they started with me at. And either they are awesome enough for me to want to invest more time in getting them up to this new level of business, or I've got to let them go. And that's always so tough because usually you've got some friendship going on there as well, right? And then it's like, oh, like how do I fire this person? And like, or like you don't want to make that hard choice. That's a tough spot.
What's your beliefs on maybe find a different spot on the bus for them, a different seat?
I think it goes back to what exactly does the business need and how much of an A player are they? How capable are they going to be to fit into a new role? And you know what? I will give a great example on this. It's my mom.
All right.
My mom, y'all. Have you ever
fired
had to
your mom?
I did not fire my mom.
Oh no, I know the story.
I didn't fire her, but I mean, like, I grew up in like a Southern Hispanic family. So like when I talk about like there's matriarchy, there's hierarchy, there's, respect your elders till your dying breath going on, right? Luckily, my mom is a very graceful, emotionally intelligent person. So she's great. I did not have to fire her, but I did have to recreate what her role was going to look like, right? And so I think this is a great example because like if you can give feedback, if you can give constructive feedback to your parent, like all the power to you, okay? So I'll pat myself on the back on that. But I hired her when I had hired an ops assistant. This was maybe my second year of business, so 21 or 2022. And I was like, okay, this person wasn't really who I needed for my team. My mom was looking for a job at the time. And I was like, you know what? She has all of like the skill sets. She hasn't done this exact job before, but she has all the skill sets to learn this job. She had the capability, right, and just to step into it. So like, okay, cool, like I can hire her. And she was my ops assistant for 2 years. And she did great things for where I was in my business at that time. Like just having someone, she is such a cross the or dot the I's, cross the T's kind of person. Like, and she was going to catch me on any like attention to detail mistake I made. I knew that like she was going to catch me on that. Right. So awesome for what I needed at the time. And then my business grew up a little bit more. I was like, okay, well, now this ops assistant really needs to do more client success and those types of, and she, that's not her skill set. And so I had to kind of not demote her totally, but find a different role for her. It's like, okay, great. Like you're great at like, she doesn't love QuickBooks, but she's great at finding the data entry issues with the numbers. She's great at kind of catching like, hey, did we skip a step somewhere? And so still being like that safety net for us, I could create a role that my business did need and that she fit the need for it. And so I think that that's a great example of, okay, now I'm going to hire a different ops assistant that could come in and do more client success, more team trainings, and fill what the business needs while still figuring out how this A player, my mom, could still support the business.
Dan Sullivan has a book called 10X is Easier than 2X. And he talks about 80-20 rule. I'm going to talk about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to go through 2 layoffs in my previous and back in my corporate days. And those are worse than firing people. When firing people make me mad. They deserve it. Whatever it is, get out of my way. I don't need you anymore.
Okay.
Layoffs are kind of harder because, they necessarily haven't done anything wrong. You just got to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And the government makes rules and he makes it harder to do a layoff, in my opinion, but do the right layoff. But the reason I bring it up is Dan talks about, not necessarily see it on the bus, and that's another book. But anyway, identifying the 20% that person does well and then thrives on,
Mm-hmm.
and then taking the other 80% and find somebody else who thrives on that better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you build your team. Now you got to have A players, I would assume, to kind of do that. And I didn't get into it much into the book. I mean, I love the book, but I didn't get into weeds of it, like you said. How do you identify the communication? I've talked to my people here. It's like, okay, that's my goal someday. It's like, I want to identify the things that you love to do.
Mm-hmm.
As we grow, then we're going to identify how, as we grow as a team, what's the next team player we're going to find that you need for the company. Is that the best way to do it? Communicate, or do you have a different philosophy?
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And let me just give a little bit more specifics then, because if you are a podcast listener like me, I'm always like, that sounds cool, but like, give me the action step. How do I do it?
Well, that's what I got my expert here for. Okay.
Yeah, let me just get into the weeds a little bit on that. And it's going to go back to what I said at the beginning. And you kind of hinted at this, right? Like, what's your 20%? What do you like to do? And so at the beginning, I said, what's your role as the founder, right? Where do you want to play in the business? So, but that could still sound a bit as like a vague prompt if you haven't really thought about that before. So I'd say every business, no matter how complex it is, I know in construction, your go-to response is like, oh, this is such a complicated industry. Like no one can understand it, right? And you have a lot of shit going on, a lot of regulation, a lot of tight numbers. So I do empathize and I understand. However, your business still breaks down into 3 buckets, no matter what industry you're in. How you get
game. Yep.
Yeah, how you get clients, sales, marketing, everything is under. How do you get clients? How do you get paid for the thing that you sold to the client? And then how do you do the thing that you get paid for, right? So you got sales, cash, and ops. And so look at your business from a super bird's eye view. What does it take for your business to function? What high level processes happen in each of those things? And then where do you want to play in that, right? And I mean, the 10X is easier than 2X, I think, is a great book if you're looking to maybe build a business that you can sell and exit. If you are not thinking about selling and exiting, or you're like, that would be cool, but like, I do want to do this for like 15, 20 years or something, then parts of that book are not going to resonate because it's pushing you way too much into a visionary aspect. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want all of your time to be in the visionary space and you want some of your time to be a little bit of a doer, implementer, with your team, then that book is you're going to struggle with some of the concepts there. And so not everything needs to be visionary strategy. Some of your job description can be in the implementer roles of sales, cash, and ops. As you grow, right, you probably do need to let go of some things that you still enjoy doing because like your business can't keep growing. You don't have the time. And so then what you're interested in evolves anyway. So like what your job description is today doesn't have to be your job description for the next 3 or 5 years. You're the founder. You can change it. It's your choice, right? Like it's your business. You can change your mind. My role has changed over the past 6 months and that's totally fine, Sure. And so that's how I would go about figuring out what you really like to do. If that feels vague to you, then just get on paper what your business needs and then look at what do I like to do within these needs. And that might be a little bit more tactical and easier for you to go about the exercise.
Just break it down into those 3 categories you mentioned, sales and the doing and the cash, and identify where you're at each one, and what makes the most sense as far as expense or dollars or just time. What's going to free up most of your time? What's going to free up somebody else's time to do more of what they do?
Yeah. And also the point I want to emphasize here is we are not saying what are the tasks I have to do. It's what are the tasks I enjoy doing and I'm good at in my business. Because if you think of what I have to do, then all the trust issues and insecurity is going to come into that and you're going to screw yourself over. Okay. So just think about it in an ideal situation. Like for instance, our ops assistant is new.
Yeah.
And she eventually, her job description eventually will be managing some of our contractor payouts. For now, she doesn't have access to my bank accounts. She's new. I'm not giving her those
No.
logins, like, so she is like looking at the contractor timesheets. She does have access to see what their hourly rates are and to tell my mom, our finance person, what the totals and the calculations are. But she's not going in and paying people because I'm not giving her my bank account stuff. So when I say like ignore your trust issues, I'm saying just for this exercise, and then think realistically, how will you trust this person over time? And you can still be smart about it.
Thank you. All right. Here's an age-old question.
Okay.
Now, some it's obvious that you got to hire on site, but sometimes what I mean is in the construction trades, I can't hire a virtual assistant to go hammer that nail,
Yeah.
or sweep that floor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with digital and internet, we have ability. So is it better to have in-house or out-of-house when it comes to, say, admin? Or does it?
Yeah.
How do you determine what's best for you in your company?
So I'd say a few things. First off, like let's go with like the simplest factor there of like budget. Like, can you afford to bring someone in person, right? Even if it is part-time. If it's part-time in person, though, you're probably still looking at about 20 hours a week. Some of our clients, like, hey, that doesn't make sense for them. Like they need someone that's like 5 to 10 hours a week, right? So what is realistically your budget there? And then I'd also say, like, if really look at the tasks on that list, and do those tasks require somebody to be in person? That might be nice for you. If you want to just like yell out of your office and like see your money punny sitting next to you, like right in the hallway, and like you can just yell, "Oh, I need this," like that. If that's what you want and you have the budget for it, by all means, go for it. Go get what you want. Don't force yourself into a digital person box if that's not going to work well for your personality. I would argue, though, if you're looking at the job list and you're like, a lot of these things can be done remotely, explore that option, because a lot of times bringing on someone remotely is going to highlight what inefficiencies you have in your admin process. And there's usually a lot of inefficiencies in those processes because they are the forgotten child, right? You've spent a lot of times optimizing your field. Now, once the field's in order, now you want to worry about cash and job costing and getting the finances in place. And so all the office processes usually fall by the wayside. And so I'd say hire someone remotely, because that is going to save you money and force you to be more efficient and smarter in how certain things get done.
I have virtual assistants on one level, and then I have obviously in-house people. What I struggled with, and I'm much better at it now, but not necessarily the training, but just the communication back and forth, not physical communication. I mean, make sure they all speak English if that's what your native language is. But I'm more of a visual person.
Okay.
And they're not here with me. So it's hard for me to explain, or not necessarily trust, because you want to hire the person that can do the job. But identifying those weaknesses until it's too late. Is there a better way to train people, or kind of prep them when you hire a new virtual assistant to kind of avoid some of my mistakes I've made?
Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding the question here. So what I'm hearing is that when you have hired admin people in the past and they were in the office with you, it was easier for you to see if your assumption that they were an A player was wrong because you could see them physically all day doing certain work. Is that what happened?
It was easier for me, yes.
Okay.
But it made it, because I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
And while we've got like 4 virtual assistants over in the Philippines for different reasons, and they're great. I just don't see them all the time. And we have a daily report, but it's just getting those people up and going and kind of communicating back and forth. What's the best way to make all that happen? So when you if you hire your own virtual assistant, or you help your clients hire virtual assistants, how do you make that transition to get them part of the team? And I guess what I'm saying, how do you make that more clear and faster?
The first thing is going to go back to like, what's your clarity on outcomes, right? And how you want to be working with this person and really what you want them to be doing. So I would push back a little bit that a daily report is a lot. That is like, I don't want to read a daily report. I want to read like maybe a weekly report. But if someone's updating me every day, I'm like, I do not care. Like, just go get your shit done. Like, I don't want to, like I don't. And so then it's also like, I don't know. I mean, our people are all US based. And so it's easier for our clients to have weekly check-ins. Like I say, you need at least like ideally 30 minutes, but at least 15 minutes of face-to-face time, because you've got to build that relationship. And that's going to make it easier for you to trust them. So if your people are maybe working their daytime shift instead of their overnight shift so that they're on your hours, that might be a little bit more difficult, in which case all of your communication with them is only written instead of verbal. And so on that, I'd say like still lean into like where your strengths are. So like, we talked about audio notes earlier. Like if you don't want to read their daily report, if you don't want to type up tasks for them, drop the audio notes. And if they're not capable of like understanding the tasks and outcomes from that, then like maybe they're not your A players, And I would also just say like, if we go back to you're talking about like, how do I communicate with them to get them up to speed for like what I want them to do?
Right.
And so what I say is like, okay, in the weekly check-ins, I don't want to run that meeting. I need my assistant to have the agenda for me. And then it's also kind of working sessions. And in those working sessions, I can see more about how they think. So it's not just a check-in where like they are asking me questions that they need from me to execute on things. It's not just me like barking orders at them. It's conversational. So I'm getting to know them and we're getting work done. And that gives me insight like, oh, do they think proactively? Are they critical thinkers? I told them this big picture context. Are they understanding how these tasks fit into that or not? And so I'm able to kind of see that. Ideally though, arguing against myself here, ideally you are picking up on that in the interviews, in those red and green flag questions. And so maybe with your agency, and I'm not talking poorly about anyone international, there's some great international agencies out there, but some of them, you don't get to interview your person beforehand. They just kind of match you. And if whoever's doing that matching process isn't a great people reader, or they don't really understand your business well, then maybe they got the matching wrong and you guys don't have the chemistry you need to really build rapport and for them to execute well, right? There's so many different issues. There's so many factors there that you could evaluate.
To wrap it up before we go, so for my listeners who are considering maybe even the virtual, is there certain categories that work better for virtual assistants over, say, somebody in-house? I'm like in accounting or lead generation, or just assistants in general. Is there certain areas that you might say, well, you might want to consider a virtual assistant in your particular instance over somebody in-house, and assuming the budget is there?
Yeah, I'd say for sure, if you are a founder, like if you're traveling a lot, if you're kind of going to job sites a lot, so you're not typically in the office for most of your day, your VA doesn't have to do travel coordination for you. But if you're not in the office most of the day, then you probably don't need somebody in person anyway, because you can't lean over and see them working. So get someone that is virtual in that instance. Is definitely something I'd recommend. And so we focus on executive assistants, admin, and ops assistants. And usually in those job descriptions, 90% of the workload can be done remotely.
Awesome. Well, Sam, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to chat?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is awesome. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, Samantha C Prestidge on LinkedIn. My website's not SEO friendly, so I won't spell it out for you. So just find me on LinkedIn, connect with me. And always happy to connect and learn more about anyone in my network.
Now, as always, we'll make sure that is down below in the show notes, your LinkedIn profile, or that link to that. And this is Chris G, and the Hard Hat CEO. Thank you, Sam, for this today. I do enjoy talking about delegating and finding people, because I am not a micromanager by no means. So,
all right. Thanks for having me.
All right. God be with you till we meet again, guys. We'll see you again next week on Hard Hat CEO. Bye-bye.